Why does everyone say med school is so hard? What is so different about med school from high school? This is a really good question because it tells you things that you don't normally realize. Let's look into it. Hi everyone. Here's another tool to add to your inventory. My name is Akshita and I'm an international med student studying the Bachelor of Medical Studies and Doctor of Medicine combined degree at UNSW Sydney. I was looking through the comments in my previous videos and I realized that a larger number of people who watch me at the moment are high school students or students in the last few years just applying into medicine, wanting to get into medicine or in Australia or overseas. And I thought it might be useful for me to break down the reasons behind why someone would say medicine is really hard and why there is that general perception that med school is really hard to get through. The way I'm going to do this is by highlight some differences between what you typically see in high school, what you all are used to at the moment, versus what's unique about med school and what pleasantly surprised me when I entered med school. I will probably sprinkle here and there methods that I've chosen or used to get around the problems, but there are still a lot of things that I'm still learning to process. But timestamps are in the description box for you to skip ahead and focus on what you want, but let's get started. In the last 2 years, I was allowed to choose certain subjects of what I wanted to study. So I had taken maths instead of physical education. I had taken biology instead of psychology. I faintly remember that those were the two choices I was given. I'm pretty sure in international British curriculum, the IB, the GCSE, the edXL, all of them do have some degree of choice of what you want to study, at least for the last few years of your high school. So I think it's a universal thing across all high school education streams to be able to choose subjects. That does not happen in med school. Now this might come as a shock to some of you because university is well known for you can study whatever you want, you can study whenever you want. But med school is sort of an exception. It might differ across different universities. Some universities might still provide you some degree of choice, but essentially you need to know everything about everything. And there's a reason for that. There is no single organ system in your body that operates completely on its own. It's got linkages to everything. So it is kind of impossible to be able to become well versed with a part of your body systems without knowing the underlying concepts around it. So at least for the time you are in med school, you are going to be learning a lot about everything, and that's what leads to this voluminous amount of work that you need to do. A lot of people say med school is hard just because of the amount of work that you need to complete in such a short amount of time. So I remember in high school, we used to have assignments, group projects, and then we would have a lot of homework. Essentially, when a topic is being taught in class, you are hearing the teacher speak, they make you do activities in class, you get homework, you go and do that at home, and you use that to prep for your exams in the next few weeks. Essentially, what I'm getting at here is that you could rock up to class without any preparation and still expect to understand something there because it's the teacher's responsibility to make sure that we know everything from start to finish. That's not how it works in med school. In med school, a lot of the work is self-driven. There are pre and post activities to each tutorial or practical. So before you attend an anatomy prac, you probably have videos to watch, lectures to make sure you're up to date with, worksheets that you've already completed. And then after the practical, you have other online tutorials to attend to refresh the knowledge of what you might have acquired in that lab. So there's a lot of work around a certain learning activity that you need to have done to be able to get the most out of it. Because the workload is so heavy, there are often a lot of times you will not be able to keep up with the amount of pre and post work you need to do or the lectures that you need to be up to date with to be able to get the most out of these practicals and tutorials. And that comes out as a sinking, overwhelming feeling in the prac where you You know you're not able to understand this, not because you're dumb. It's because you haven't done the activities and the lectures that should have prepared you for this class. So it's like a massive waste of time and poor efficiency. The way med students get over this, there are a few different options. One of the most common things that I've noticed my friends use is studying ahead during vacations. They often complete as many lectures or as much information as they can in the vacations so that they can delay this thing of overwhelming lecture overload. I have noticed people not attending lectures live and not doing these things when they are required to do, so that they can watch the recording at twice or thrice the speed to be able to make it more time efficient. I have noticed people not do all the work but just handpick the lectures that are relevant to the topic that they're going to do, make that a priority to finish it so that at least there is some sort of background to this practical that they're about to attend. There is some of the other tactic that med students use to avoid wasting their time in class, even if they haven't really prepped or been up to date with lectures enough to be able to attend them and be useful. One of the coolest things that I've noticed my seniors do is following their own schedule. They decide that, okay, I'm going to have my own study schedule independent of what's going on in uni. So of course they will attend the compulsory classes, but largely lectures, online tutorials, they often choose to watch the recordings or just follow their own timeline, which is more comfortable for them. And so they're kind of okay and not guilty about maybe missing lectures or doing things later than the others or earlier than the others. They just follow their own schedule. The thing about that is you have to have discipline to follow the schedule that you have set out for yourself. That's the difference. On that note, let's talk about how discipline is different in med school. It's kind of easy to stay disciplined in high school because it's the last few years. A lot of your time and effort is dedicated into, getting into the university or country of your dreams. And because you are well aware about how important this decision is for you, how life-changing this turning point is, it's kind of easy to stay focused on that goal. I remember the months leading up to my board exams, the thought of getting into med school was consuming me 24/7. There was literally nothing I could think of day in, day out. And so it kind of was natural that I stayed focused on work, was working on my work day and night, staying motivated even if it was difficult, because there is some sort of external pressure there. But that pressure disappears once you get into med school. Because med school is a very long degree process, in the first few years, there really isn't any devastating consequence of you not performing well. And universities won't penalize you for scoring low. As long as you're passing, universities are fine with that. So you don't get any pressure from there. If there are no real consequences, you kind of find it easy to get lectures backed up, lose your efficient strategies, become lazy and inconsistent. But there are effects of it. Those effects are apparent much, much later. When you're in your clinical years and you're shadowing a doctor or you're sitting in a consult and watching a patient being taken care of, a doctor may straight up ask you a question like that, or a patient could ask you a random question, and that feeling of not being able to answer it because you can't remember the concept that was taught to you, crushing. And that's when you regret not paying attention when you could have in your non-clinical years. So to avoid that, you really need to find conscious ways of making sure you stay self-disciplined during med school without that external pressure from everybody else around you. How do I do it? Well, just keep exposing yourself to situations that test you and remind you that you need to keep working hard. So ask questions in class, speak up in class, because when you get the wrong answer, you realize, ooh, I don't know that answer. When you use active recall methods like flashcards, because that's always testing you, showing you that, okay, you don't know this concept, you need to study it. Setting higher and higher goals and not just settling down at wherever you're at. Never get comfortable with wherever you are at any point in your studies or in anything in general. Always keep setting higher and higher goals, because then you have a purpose. You are creating that external pressure that pushes you into self-discipline and efficiency. And I don't just mean academic goals to set higher and higher. You can literally, like right now, me starting this channel in the earlier parts of this year and considering doing this channel alongside my coursework itself is a challenge. I've never done anything like this before, so I need efficiency, discipline, and motivation to be able to do this and maintain my academic studies. So it doesn't have to be limited to academics. It could be just you balancing academics and expanding yourself in extracurriculars. But that discipline needs to come from you. Now with high school, keeping up with friends is actually quite easy. If I had to meet any friend of mine who has taken up commerce or taken up a subject that I haven't taken up or is just not in my class, all I have to do is walk across the corridor to her class and like meet her up, because the classes all end at the same time, start at the same time, everyone's lunch break is at the same time, everyone gets off school at the same time. It's like universal. That's not how it works in uni or in med school. Especially in medicine, doing medicine in UNSW or any other university, we have very different timetables from the rest of the university. Most students in other degrees have that chance of, rescheduling their week dramatically to be able to create free times during the day. We don't have that luxury. And so, for example, I am a part of a cultural mentors program which actually spans across all faculties. It's really, really hard for me to actually attend any of their events because they're held between the, Friday afternoon time, but my classes are very spread out across the week, and from 9 to 5 I can never guarantee that I will have free time to attend those events. The most obvious way this can be seen is when medical societies set events, because they are aware that our timetables are usually super packed between 9 to 5. So any social activity in med school is usually held after 5:30 p.m. So that makes it convenient for us to attend that. So when you have friends outside medicine, it kind of gets hard to catch up with them. You also don't have classes starting at the same time or ending at the same time. You might not even get breaks at the same time they do. It's really, unless you push forward and put effort into meeting up and setting times out, it's really impossible to meet them. Sometimes they're even in separate campuses because universities are so huge, so it's kind of even physically impossible to see them in passing. So the way you make sure you keep in touch with friends is, first of all, don't forget birthdays, don't forget New Year's. And obviously, make group chats, keep the conversation going. The more they remember that you are going to have very specific time frames you are free, the more likely it is that you are able to meet up when you are comfortable. Now, let's talk assessments. In high school, individual assignment, group project, quizzes, pre-boards, examinations, essays. That's essentially what you have. Nothing new there. Med school, though, introduces you to a whole new format of assessments that you probably haven't encountered before you've entered this place. They come in two main forms. You have clinical assessments and then you have reflective writing. Clinical assessment can be known in many different ways. You call it integrated clinical learning, you can call it OSCE, I don't remember the full form of that thing, but there are different names. Every university has its own way of naming the clinical exams, but essentially a clinical exam is assessing how well you can speak to a patient, how well you can get information from them about what problem they are experiencing, and how well you can turn the cogwheels in your head and figure out what's happening. The way I see it is clinical assessments and reflective writing actually are really good at enhancing your communication skills and making you better at looking at yourself objectively, looking at yourself from the outside and being able to reflect and say, okay, this is what I did wrong, this is what I can do in the future. So it really helps you stay accountable to the things that you might or might not do in the future. I just want to apologize for this stupid lighting. The sun decided to come out in the middle of my video. It could have stayed there and I could have fixed my lighting, but okay, anyway. But you know what? Those exams are not hard per se. Like OSCEs, I love them. I enjoy it. Like it's so much fun to get that problem and you're like, okay, what is going on with this person? And when you do get the idea in your head, you're like asking directed questions towards it. It's so much fun. If you put the effort in it, like I enjoyed my last OSCEs and I scored well in it. So I was like, this is amazing. So these exams are not hard per se, it's just that because they are new, you need to put in extra effort to get comfortable with them so that you can actually enjoy them when they do, like me. That's it. Those are the 5 things that I think are different about med school from high school and are probably the reasons why people say med school is hard. What I do want you to take away from here is that although they are challenging and there are new things that you have to learn, none of them are impossible to work around. So you can do it. If you found anything of value from this video, please consider liking it, share it around, comment down below and tell me what's worrying you the most about getting into med school or the prospect of studying medicine in general. If there's anything that you want me to make videos on, comment down below, let me know about that and I shall get to it as quickly as I can. And if you want more tools coming your way, subscribe to this channel, make this inventory your own. But until next Friday,